NFL recap for week 9 of the NFL season, and it was an absolute doozy. Odell Beckham leaves Cleveland, and what ends up happening? Their team ends up balling out. I told you Odell Beckham is the type of guy that is all about himself. He cannot play in the scheme of the offense. He leaves their offense, and suddenly Baker Mayfield now can just focus on his reads and not about the overarching personality of Odell Beckham Jr., and the Browns start to roll. This is really good for Cleveland. They're playing a really good Patriots team that I told you last week was a team that I really, really liked, all right, in the AFC. Buffalo loses to Jacksonville. You look at this offense this year, it is not as clean as last year. I think that NFL teams are starting to adjust to Josh Allen a little bit. They're dropping 8, all right. They understand he's going to scramble outside of the pocket. His ascension last year was something that has not been seen by lots of people. He was clearly, I mean, you gave it to Alex Smith, and deservingly so at Alex Smith, but Josh Allen was the most improved football player, just his accuracy and his ability. And he still makes wild throws from time to time. But you look at this offense, Stephon Diggs is a good receiver, but I don't know if he's an elite talent. Like even Jamar Chase is proving to be an elite talent. He's a very good player, very good, but I don't know if he's that upper echelon Devontae Adams type of player. You look at the running game, Zach Moss and Singletary, it is not what you really want from the running back position, and Jacksonville was able to sniff all of that out. So for Josh Allen, a lot of the offense is off schedule, and again, the Buffalo Bills are going to have to learn how to run it, go play action pass, and let's get Josh Allen to be more efficient. This offense, when the quarterback's throwing it a lot, it's a lot like the air raid offense right now. And Buffalo has to sort it out. And there are some real problems with Buffalo against Miami. They did not play well at home against Miami. Against Houston and Washington Redskins, they played really well against the Texans and those teams. But their offense has really been slowing down. Against Tennessee, I guess the offense was good in that game. But still, I mean, teams are kind of scheming them up. I'm going to have to watch that Jacksonville Buffalo game back to really see what's going on with Josh Allen and this offense. But it gives hopes to really good defenses like the Patriots that if you get Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and you also get Brandon Bolden, who's having a really great year, that game week 9 could be a huge game. You look at the Patriots, they have 2 games in 10 days coming up. The Patriots have the Cleveland Browns, which is going to be a very tough task, especially with Baker Mayfield playing better. Mac Jones has kind of came back down the earth. I mean, against the Panthers, he was not good at all. He had the false start penalties. He threw a terrible interception to Stephon Gilmore. He's missing guys. He getting sacked. The offense was terrible in the first half, if not for the defense playing absolutely unbelievable. Mac Jones had a sack fumble as well, and he grabbed Brian Burns' leg. He fought Burns, had the ball, so that's why he took him down in a very vicious way. Maybe Mac Jones, the type of guy who gets on the field and makes those types of plays. I'm talking about tackles. Some guys can be very aggressive when they get in between the white lines of football. I think Mac Jones is a very nice guy. I've listened to every interview he's ever done in the National Football League. One of my favorite players in the National Football League. And on the field, he just has maybe that edge to him. But again, it's rare for a quarterback. He doesn't really know how to hit anybody. All right. And again, I'm sure Mac Jones, he already apologized or basically said he didn't intend to injure Brian Burns. So that's a little bit distracting. The fine is going to be a little bit distracting. But again, the Patriots and Mac Jones, one of the most interesting stories is how they're climbing out of this 2-4 hole. Okay, Bill Belichick finally finding his replacement for Tom Brady and the way that this team is coming together. You have to see what Damian Harris and Mondre Stevenson, you have to see what their symptoms are like with concussions because they're going to need them versus Cleveland. But the Browns, I mean, Nick Chubb ran off a huge run. Denzel Ward had that huge play. But also, it goes without saying that number one quarterback overall, Joe Burrow, he does not have near the talent of Justin Herbert. And I said before that draft that if I were Cincinnati, I would have picked between Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert over Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow, even though he had a great year at LSU, he lacks the arm strength that Justin Herbert has. And I thought Tua had more talent than Joe Burrow. Tua Tagovailoa is always injured. It's incredibly frustrating. I mean, when you're always hurt like Jimmy Garoppolo or like Tua, you know, your best trait is availability. And when you're constantly getting injured, you're a liability. It just is what it is in this kind of black and white sort of, you know, objective observation of Tua Tagovailoa, and it's so damn frustrating. But with Joe Burrow, mentally he's really good, but he still makes bad mistakes with turnovers. And again, his arm strength will never yield him to be the superstar that Josh Allen and Mahomes and these other guys are. So he's going to have to make up with it with his mind, which he's doing a decent job of. But again, Baker Mayfield totally outplayed him. Baker Mayfield has been a constant and actually efficient professional quarterback. He led Cleveland to their first ever win in the playoffs last year in a very long time. I think people take Baker for granted. All right. They still have Nick Chubb. They're still learning about Stefanski's offense, which doesn't allow the quarterback to throw the ball a whole lot. All right. So Baker Mayfield over Joe Burrow any day of the week, and it showed. Lamar Jackson has made incredible progress, you know, as a passer. He's very accurate now in the mid-range game. Kirk Cousins can never close out a game. Mike Zimmer is just kind of a very hot-tempered kind of coach, and I don't think that there's a lot of mobility within Mike Zimmer. I don't think that he's a Mike Tomlin or a Belichick that's going to be there for a very long time. I would move on from Mike Zimmer if I were Minnesota. The Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons go down there. Trevor Siemian and Sean Payton kind of came alive in that fourth quarter. The Falcons offense really struggled. They are a work in progress with Arthur Smith, but they're finding ways to win. What a throw to Cordell Patterson. What a job by Arthur Smith utilizing Cordell Patterson. What a win for Atlanta, coming back and again showing the mental resolve to not blow that lead. And Younghoe Koo has been nails in the fourth quarter of these games. Tennessee gets a big win. Matt Stafford resorts back to the Detroit Matthew Stafford. Pick sixes, turnovers. You now look at Arizona, which reminds you of Arizona, the Arizona Cardinals. What a win with Colt McCoy, James Conner against Shanahan. But let's talk a little bit about the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel has done an exceptional job. I rated them off as being a very average team. Derrick Henry gets hurt. I've never really been the biggest Tannehill guy. I always thought Tannehill kind of benefited from having A.J. Brown or whatever. I got used to the Tannehill in Miami, which was, you know, kind of just plain and could barely win these games. Against the Patriots, he threw for 115 yards. Against Baltimore, he played really well in the playoffs, so I'll give him that. When he went on the road to Baltimore, he made big-time throws in that game. All right? I'll give him credit for the Baltimore game. Last year, he lost. He's 2-1 in the playoffs, Ryan Tannehill, as a quarterback. He still has 2 playoff wins, which is decent as a quarterback. This year, what he is doing is very, very special. Jeffrey Simmons out of Mississippi State, I said would be a tremendous draft pick. So this defense somehow is unbelievable in Tennessee. Mike Vrabel could get coach of the year. Cliff Kingsbury will get coach of the year because Cliff Kingsbury has been that good of a coach. And Colt McCoy coming in there and smashing Shanahan is unbelievable. unbelievable with James Conner and company, and no DeAndre Hopkins. The fan base in San Francisco, it's a polarizing fan base, and it could be a negative fan base. And I know that everybody is now jumping on the Kyle Shanahan sucks. So Giants fan, I'd love to have him. I love his offensive intellect. I love how he runs the football. I love the motions that he has in between the snap. Jimmy Garoppolo still had decent offense. DeMeco Ryans, unfortunately, kind of learning on the job. I'm a big DeMeco Ryans fan. I think that John Lynch in the defense, their lack of depth in the secondary is kind of catching up to them completely. Solomon Thomas leaves. I think he's better on the Raiders now. DeForest Buckner leaves. So their pass rush is just not the same. It's just not the same level of pass rush that it was under Robert Saleh. It's going to be interesting with Shanahan because those Niners fans are turning on him. It's kind of that fishbowl job, kind of like Dan Mullen in Florida. When the fans start turning on you, it's hard to get the momentum back on your side. Could start Trey Lance. He just seemed like a guy who wanted Mac Jones and was kind of bullied by Jed York, bullied by Lynch a little bit, and this fan base to really go all in on a quarterback that he values accuracy and timing in schemes. I know he had RG3, but listening to Chris Sims, who again knows Shanahan, and watching Shanahan with Kirk Cousins, he likes those play action kind of rhythm throwers that have real clean releases and everything. And Trey Lance kind of a loopier release. I just think that he wanted a Mac Jones, and I think that there might have been a fight with ownership there. So Shanahan's been kind of defiant. The media, they're definitely sharks out there in San Francisco. If you're a fan, again, you're going to oftentimes side with the media because they're going to really hold coaches accountable. So again, it ain't a place where the media, again, is not really in bed with the fans. They're kind of both out with their pitchforks with Shanahan. And that is going to be a fascinating ordeal. Again, if I'm the Giants, I hire Sims and Shanahan immediately. And you might just say, that's a nepotism of their dads and whatever, of Chris Sims and of Mike Shanahan. But they know each other well. Okay, I think that Sims is a good intellect. All right, I really do. I like his opinions on these things. And Sims knows the Giants. He likes living in Jersey. And him and Shanahan could work really well together. It would be a freaking blast. I would even offer a first-round pick for Kyle Shanahan. I believe in the guy. I believe in his offensive scheme. I think the defense is lacking. You just lost Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur. Okay. So I think that the scheme is lacking. I think the job is really tough. And I think that Mac Jones thing of trading all those draft picks, I think that the whole thing kind of blew up. The Aaron Rodgers drama. And now you're seeing Mac with the Patriots kind of doing better. I think that whole thing could come back to bite him. I really do. I don't think he necessarily wants to be there for the Trey Lance and kind of yielding the offense to this really improvisational style of quarterbacking like Josh Allen. I think Brian Daboll is actually more of a guy who can mentor Trey Lance. So the whole thing is going to be really, really interesting out there. Then you look, all right, then you're going to look at man, if Shanahan went to the Giants, maybe he'd like Matt Corral. That would be interesting because you need a quarterback who's mobile and can throw with accuracy. Kenny Pickett. That's the problem with Carson Strong and Willis. He might view Willis as too small and inaccurate. He might view Willis as having a big arm and able to run. So maybe you can, mention up the schemes and whatever. And I know Willis has played a lot of football at Liberty and he'd be around better players. Even though Willis has been inconsistent this year, I'm still a big Willis fan. And then Strong is completely immobile, but could he get Carson out on bootlegs, or is Strong's knee too messed up? It's probably Carson Strong's knee's too messed up. So Carson Strong's going to have to go to a place like Josh McDaniels, or that's going to run very pro style. Maybe Shanahan could adapt the style to fit Carson Strong, because Strong can hit slant routes all day. So that is interesting. So the NFL, crazy things happen. Tennessee looks pretty good. I'm not buying Tennessee. In the AFC, I'm still watching out for the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. I'm still watching out for the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. I'm looking at the Chiefs of Mahomes, and I'm looking at the Chargers of Herbert. You look at the best quarterbacks, all right? You look at the Chiefs and Chargers, and then you look at the Bills and the Ravens, all right? So kind of same as last year. And then you're going to look at the Patriots, again, as that kind of real team that is playing the best defensive football in the NFL. In the NFC, you still have the Packers and the Bucks, all right, that are still really, really good. Be fascinating to see kind of if in Aaron's last year in Green Bay, which we all expect, if Odell Beckham signs a one kind of a half-year deal to go to Green Bay, to try to be alongside Devontae Adams to try to pose a threat to the Bucks. I think the Bucks are still the class of the NFC. Dallas had a bad loss. They've had a kind of easier schedule here. Still a really good team. Still going to be there in the end of the playoffs. The Cardinals, I'm still going to go with the Bucks. I like the Bucks better than them. I like Green Bay and Rodgers still more than I like Arizona. The Rams are all right, but the defense is not really what I want. Stafford, I'm going with Rodgers versus Brady again. That's probably what's going to end up happening in the NFC. It's kind of chalky, but it's what I think. Cowboys are right there. I'm going to put the Cowboys there, and I'm going to put the Rams there. I don't know if Kyler in the playoffs. I don't really see it all happening. I guess the Cardinals are going to keep winning. They're a great regular season story. Maybe they'll get to host the playoff game. You get the 1 seed, which will be fascinating stuff. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, but I'm incredibly impressed. All you could say is you're impressed, but are you going to pick them in the playoffs? No. And in the AFC, I mean, Pittsburgh is just, I mean, the Lions are going to beat the Steelers. The Steelers are not a good team. Their offense is terrible still, unfortunately for Pittsburgh. The defense is there. Tomlin and Big Ben. I mean, Tomlin could still win these games. It's incredible how he does it. And that's kind of the recap of week 9.